Hey everybody, I wanted to come to you today with a little bit of bonus content to add to what we talked about this past weekend at MCC. We've been in this series called Mr. and Mrs. Wrong, and this past weekend we talked about communication and relationships. And for a lot of us, that's a big place to struggle. We leaned into how to have effective communication in relationships. But here's what you need to know. You can get all of those communication things right, and you're still going to get into a fight from time to time. And so what I wanted to give you today were 5, and then maybe even a little bonus, 5 rules to fight right. The first rule is this: never call names. No names. When you call somebody a name, what you're doing is actually you're undermining the God-given identity that they have. You're putting a definition on them. Rule number 2. Never raise your voice. Now listen, I know some of you grew up in homes like I did where shouts and screams, and that was just part of what it was. But remember back to when you were a kid. When you heard mom and dad or whoever it was in the house start screaming at the top of their lungs, how'd you feel? Did that make you feel like you were in a safe environment? No. Let's keep our voices low. Let's not let anger well up inside of us. That's one of the ways to fight right. Third thing, don't get historical. If your spouse invested all of your money in Blockbuster and it cost you millions, don't bring that up. Let's focus on the issue at hand and don't go digging into the past to resurrect things to try to figure out how they make or break what you're in right now. Number 4, never say never or always. Sometimes we get in arguments. We can say things like, you're always on your phone or you're never on time. But the reality is that's probably not really the case. A better way to frame that is to say things like, hey, recently I've noticed that you're on your phone way more than you normally are. Help me understand why that is. Or, hey, more often than not, you're late for things. How can I help you be more on time? What can I do to make that different? And the last one is this, number 5, never threaten divorce. See, it's really a low blow. It kind of is this last resort that we're throwing out there as this thing that can happen. And more often than not, what we forget is happening when we do threaten that is we're threatening something as a solution that really does break God's heart, because it breaks apart you. It breaks apart this thing that you're in that's not just a relationship between you and a spouse or you and someone you're dating or you and somebody else. It really is something that is a threat that goes against what God has put together. And so never do that. Here's a bonus one. Number 6, never quote your pastor. Look, more often than not, if you do quote me in the midst of an argument, you're probably going to quote me out of context or whatever pastor you listen to. It's probably just a good idea to leave us out of whatever you're in. Here's how we as pastors can help. Instead of quoting us in the context of arguments, whether it's me as a pastor here at MCC or some of our lay counselors here at MCC, we want you to know that we actually want to help marriages. And so, man, if marriage is at a place right now where you need some help or you're thinking about marrying somebody and you want to enter into some marital counseling, I want you to know that for us here at MCC, we'd love to walk alongside that journey with you to lead us to be a church that starts and helps and provides everything we can to allow flourishing marriages to happen, flourishing families to happen. And if you're here locally and we can be that for you, we'd love to help. If you don't have a local pastor, you're watching this from somewhere else in the world, find one. And if you need help, go find some counselors and get the help that you need to learn how to fight right and allow your relationship to be all that God can make it be.